In today's video, we are talking about the top 10 tropes that really make lit RPG stand out as a genre. Let's jump into it. Hey there everybody, welcome back to Fantasy Inc. My name is Wyeth, and today we're talking about at least my favorite top 10 tropes. There's not an official list out there, if you can believe it or not, but I tried to be as unbiased as possible while being completely biased, if that makes any sense. Halfway through the video, we're going to be mentioning some of my least favorite tropes. When I read a book and these pop up, it's tough for me to get sold on them. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into number 10, and that is going to be a snarky system. Usually this happens when our main character or protagonist of the story catches the system's eye. In this case, it usually has to have a sense of sentience, and the reason why I like this, and it's not just for the comedic factor, but it's also because it usually alludes to there being something more behind the curtain. When a system is truly sentient and has the ability to make jokes at the main character's expense, or even everyone's expense, depending on how the book is going to go, there's definitely a point in time where the main character is going to uncover what is really going on behind the curtain. And this is just a prelude to more action and more plot development in the future. So that's why I am a big fan of this, as well as the comedic factor cannot be ignored. Jumping into number 9, it's going to be that the main character learns alchemy. This happens in a ton of books out there, whether they're picking up a second job or another class to pursue it, or it's just a hobby that they're looking to pursue. Alchemy probably is one of the most utilized non-combat classes. And this is for a couple reasons, in my opinion. Not only is another avenue for the main character to add to their combat, but it's also a great way to show the difference between a fantasy world and the regular old world we live in, because alchemy is a foregone thought when it comes to our day-to-day lives. At least I hope so, in regards to y'all's day-to-day lives. Now, a great example of this being utilized is in Primal Hunter. Our main character Jake picks up alchemy as another way to exactly enhance his combat class, and he's able to pursue it further and further and further. Not to say that there's not great other series out there where they pick up smithing, or they are able to pick up any other talents that I can't think of at the top of my head. But I think we can all agree that alchemy is the most popular one. Feel free to jump in the comments if you disagree though, because I'm looking for new series that kind of branch out, so let me know. Number 8 on this list is going to be evil nobles being the antagonist. I love evil nobles, and it's for one main reason. Usually, if there's evil nobles, the main character / protagonist has to get a little bit political. I don't know what it is about books I read, but political machinations are fantastic. And I know if y'all have read a decent chunk of fantasy / lit RPG out there, the main character usually says something along the lines of, "I hate politics," as their catchphrase. And that is the exact opposite from how I feel. Being in their situation, I might hate politics because there's a lot of pieces that they need to sleuth out, almost like a 50s noir. But at the end of the day, when you have evil nobles, there are defined lines that the MC has to determine what is right and what is not right, and whether or not they take action is up to them. And it really does show a lot about who the protagonist is on how they are able to maneuver these situations, because you can't exactly kill your way out of every single one, and that is something that a lot of protagonists are very upset about. So it allows us to see them in a different light and really understand different ways of how the main character is able to problem solve. Again, it's one of my favorite tropes to see, but I had to put it at number 8 because number 7, the inventory system, is too good not to have. This is more of a practical element of a lot of lit RPGs out there, and I feel like it's a great tool for authors to allow their main characters to get out of the situations that they wrote them into. Let's say that there is a wall that cannot be climbed or jumped past, and that's why the MC just happens to have a ladder. But the author doesn't want to just have the MC acknowledge carrying around a ladder throughout half of the quest. No, that would be unreasonable. So the inventory system was born, or at least that's how I imagined it was at the end of the day. I think I really like the inventory system, being able to store items in a dimensional space, because it is one of my favorite superpowers out there, just in general. The practicality of it is insane, and I'm curious to know if an author is ever going to consider the smuggling aspect of this. Let's say the MC is one of the only people out there with an inventory system. I'm just saying it's a possibility that I think should be considered. If the inventory system is not there, I definitely think it pigeonholes the writer. It may make them work a little harder and not kind of scapegoat out of situations, though again, the practicality aspect is undeniable. Going over to number 6, and that is going to be Murder Hobo. The way I understand this trope is that the MC solves all of their problems through, and I think it's a reasonable way to do things. And there are certain situations in these fantasy books, hear me out, and definitely don't recommend this to do at home. A lot of times, and this kind of goes against what I was saying about the evil nobles, MCs are faced with certain situations and it almost has to break them out of their earth sensibilities. And a lot of times these protagonists are set in medieval worlds, or at least worlds that are not as technologically savvy. And with that, I think there's definitely a correlation between the greater technology gets and the more social structures that are enforced. With that said though, when the main character runs into a problem that he can't solve with words, it's a very practical use of force to just take them out of the equation. And yes, I said it, and I'd like to see more of it. I think it's not always the best route to go down, but at least when it's applicable, it should be used. But that's just my reading style. That might be much more grim-dark than a lot of people out there are looking for, so take my word at a grain of salt. Alright, as promised, now I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of the tropes that I'm not a big fan of, and I'm going to start out with my least favorite trope, and that is going to be the page-long stat sheet. I hate reading, or in my case, listening to stats go on for more than 2 minutes. It is one of my least favorite things. I think stat sheets are totally fine if you're actually reading the book on Kindle or paperback, because you can skip a lot of the information. A lot of these stat dumps that we get only occur too often, I should say, when something individually improves, like intelligence goes up 2 points or the protagonist gets a new skill, and we want to see the description in the stat sheet. I completely understand that, but when you're doing it through audio format and it's happening all the time, it feels like I have to whip my phone out and skip. I might go too far, I might not go far enough, and I'm just stuck in this perpetual loop of irritation. I understand the purpose of it. It wouldn't be lit RPG if we didn't have stats or a system of some sort, and so this might be a little irritating to hear for people who really love stat dumps out there. What I would prefer authors to do, and it's just a preference, again, I'm just some random schmuck online, so take my word as you will, put it at the end of the chapter. Then we can all just skip to the next chapter. I think that's completely reasonable, but again, I digress. Jumping into one of the tropes that I don't really dislike, but I don't understand completely, and that is that no guns are allowed in cases where, let's say, the main character is isekai'd and going to a medieval world. Completely understandable. Guns have not been invented, they're not needed. But ignoring that, when, let's say, the system comes to Earth and guns just either disappear or stop working, I don't understand it. I understand how authors will go ahead and write something along the lines of the system is magic-based and they don't really appreciate technology. Yeah, that's fine, but I feel like it just doesn't make any sense. I'm under the impression that if it was an all-knowing system that was going to come along the way and grant magical powers to people, guns would just, throughout time, become more and more obsolete as people became more and more powerful. That's my opinion on the situation. I think it's a little odd not to have them or to take them away completely. But I want to get y'all's thoughts in the comments below. And some other cases where guns are in lit RPGs are one of my favorite series, like the 10 Realms. That is a prime example where the author said, yeah, why can't we have them? And eventually they can either be phased out or improved and become a little more magical. So there's definitely ways around this. The last trope that I truly cannot stand is going to be that the MC has book smarts but no street smarts. I understand why it happens. These characters are usually a little younger, in their teen years or early 20s, and may not have seen the world or understood the world like you and I have. But at the end of the day, when you hear someone yelling for help down an alley during a festival and everybody else is ignoring it, it's probably a good idea to keep going along your way. That's definitely a trap. You're about to be mugged, if not killed. And with that said, it just makes common sense. Yes, these main characters are usually white knighting and wanting to jump into every situation where they can help, and I get that, that's how the character is written. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense that everyone else is ignoring the situation. And you'd think that this country bumpkin that's finally come to the city for the first time would take cues from the people around him. But it's just a pet peeve of mine. I hope you can understand. When I see it, I groan every single time. And it's not just that specific example. It can be shown in many different ways, but I think y'all all know what I'm talking about. Now, with all that discomfort out of the way, let's go ahead and jump over to number 5 of LitRPG's top 10 tropes, courtesy of Fantasy Inc., and that's going to be the tournament arc. I love a solid tournament arc. Yes, I agree, they can be overused and a little played out on occasion, but there's something about them that I'm just a total fan of. When the main character gets to the new town or signs up to win this fantastic prize, Save the Princess, it doesn't matter. It's a great chance for the author to either allow the main character to make new friends along the way, make new enemies along the way, and also show the different power sets that this world has to offer. It's a great way for the main character to fight new battles and get experience that is a little more on the safer side, even though it never is, because of course people are going to break rules at the tournament arc, but that is expected. I don't know what it is about it, but I love when I see it, and I hope y'all agree. Number 4 on this list is going to be a bit of an odd one because we don't see it too often, but when it does come along, I can't get enough of it, and it's going to be magic versus technology. This jumps back to what I was saying about the no guns. A lot of authors just don't want to write about it for some reason, and when they decide to do that, I think it can be a very, very well-used trope. Because, yes, there is a difference between magic and technology when it comes to power leveling. You might have this S-class superhero, or you might have a nuclear bomb. Who's gonna win? I don't know, but I want to find out. And when we actually get a hero that is transported to another world, and they just so happened to be a mechanical engineer before they jumped over, I think that is a prime opportunity for them to either A, get a whole bunch of money and sell their products to the regular old Joes on this new world, or B, really outfit themselves in weapons that have not been utilized until now. I think it's a great dichotomy, and I'd love to see authors go ahead and try to mix the two a little bit more in the future. A great example of this is the series by Macronomicon right there, and this one just combines the two so eloquently and makes me love the series even more. At least the first book. Haven't checked out the ones after that. So if you're looking for something that actually blends the two together, that's one for you. Much like the inventory system, number 3 on this list is going to be much more practical, and that is the looting system. A little bit less used than the former, the looting system is, in my opinion, much more important. And that's for literary reasons. It allows the author to create drops, allows the protagonist to have some walking around cash, and it encourages more fight scenes with monsters, more battles, and really gain materials that they would not have come by very easily. I love the looting system. A great example of this is He Who Fights with Monsters, where Jason is able to make his own currency out of spirit coins, and they even have his face on it and everything, and I think that's the author really taking advantage of this gamified mechanic, because LitRPG, similar to GameLit, is supposed to be fun and make sure that it has video game-like qualities. And we're able to see that the most with the looting system. So the reason it's so high up on the list is because I think it's one of the tropes that are so closely tied to the series in general. That's not the stat sheet, so that's why I felt the need to actually put it there. Number 2 on this list is going to have to be the Magic Academy. I've said it a ton on this channel, so it's probably not very surprising to y'all, but I love a good magic school. It may stem from Harry Potter. For most of us, I'm sure it does, but there's something about the author allowing exposition flow to come from teachers and not just packed conversations on the side of a wagon. I think it flows much more naturally when it's actually in a lecture format as a reader. It takes me out of the work when the main character asks their wagon driver, oh, how does this spell work? And we get 3 pages of how intricate the magic system is. It's much more natural in a class format. It then also allows us to see some school bullies and make some antagonists along the way. I'm a big fan of that. And it's a great way to show the mentor to the protagonist, usually through the lecturers or the dean of the school. I think it is a great trope to just enhance the hero's journey. It doesn't need to be lit RPG specifically. This can be fantasy in general. If it's done well, it is done so well. And that's why I can't get enough of a good magic school. Now, number 1 on the list is, ironically, I think, one of the most popular tropes when it comes to lit RPG in general. I've mentioned it throughout the video because it's so prevalent, and that is the isekai. When a earthling is just walking around and has a fated meeting with Truckun, or for any other reasons falling through a portal or making a deal with a magical being and transported to a new world, it is a great way to have Earth sensibilities on a new planet. And I say this for a couple reasons, but I think the most important one is because it allows me to understand why the protagonist is the protagonist. Because there's different cultural values and they think differently because they were raised on a different planet completely. Yes, I said different a bunch there. Please forgive me. But you understand, right? In some books you're reading, protagonist might just be a regular Joe, and I don't know if you've had this thought before, but I have, and it's just like, what makes this guy or gal so dang special? And in some cases, there's no reason at all, but we're still reading about them. With isekai, I feel like that question is thrown to the side because we are shown how they are thinking differently, because we ourselves would think differently if we were on a different planet. Yes, I know, it's different a lot. You have my apologies. But this, again, is one of the most utilized tropes in the genre, and it's for good reason, as I hope I just mentioned. So in the comments below, please let me know what y'all's thoughts are on the tropes that I picked, good and bad. I'd love to get into some debates with y'all. I do appreciate everyone's time today. Thank y'all again for your time. It means quite a lot that all of y'all have watched to this point, so with that said, be sure to keep reading.